Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Wilds War Cry. I am your host, Stephen Wilds. Today, we're going to go retro again and take a look back at an old pay-per-view. One that I had not seen, actually, until watching it for this show. So, I brought in a couple of guests to help me review Judgment Day 2005. With me, as always, Ulysses, the man, that name redacted.
Hey guys, always happy to be here.
And the guy who was probably still in diapers in 2005, Chris.
No.
Okay, my math is a little off, but you're young as fuck. Okay. So, Judgment Day 2005. I always like the name of this pay-per-view because WWE would just overdo it on, you know, the promos and the video packages and the build up. At Judgment Day, I will finally, you know, shit like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We have a lot to talk about, and I certainly, for one, enjoyed watching this, but maybe for the wrong reasons. Had either one of you two seen this pay-per-view before this?
I had seen some of the matches on there, but not all of them. And most of this, watching this, is like, oh yeah, he used to be here. Oh yeah, this guy, blah, 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 all this and that. Just recalling all these people who used to be there in the WWE but aren't anymore. But yeah, it was my first time seeing the whole thing together.
I did see this pay-per-view, but the only two matches of this pay-per-view that I could have remembered were the last two. And that's just because at the time, I was highly invested in both of those storylines. So the rest of the pay-per-view was a really big blur, but I do remember the last two matches.
Okay, good. We're going to get right into that. Like I said, just this was at a time where I'd kind of dropped out of watching professional wrestling for a little while. But a lot of the people are on this pay-per-view in the matches were people I enjoyed watching. It was just at a time that I wasn't keeping up with the pay-per-view and was kind of, you know, only slightly maybe watching Smackdown. And for those who are curious, Judgment Day 05 was a Smackdown pay-per-view. So, let's get right into it. The first match, Charlie Haas and Hardcore Holly versus Eminem. Ulysses, what did you think about this match?
It was your basic run-of-the-mill match. There was nothing really too spectacular to say about this particular tag team match. I will say, like, at the time, I remember not liking Eminem for the sake of, like, they played that heel role pretty good. To the point where anytime they were on TV, I was booing them. I'll say this, like, did any of you guys ever remember Charlie Haas getting that big of a pop? Because that guy got a lot of good pops on this match.
Yeah, well, okay, so Charlie Haas is a good worker. And I think we forget that a lot because most people just remember him from his time with Shelton Benjamin, and so they were kind of sharing the spotlight. But Haas, you know, and Benjamin is really good, but Haas was good on his own. He's a good, solid worker. I hate that he never found more success. I know he found a little bit more in ROH, but you know, he never found success in WWE.
Yeah, and that was one of the main things. I was a big fan of Johnny Nitro or John Morrison later on. And Charlie Haas, and I was really disappointed that those two didn't work out in WWE because just by this match, you could see that at least Haas was really talented. You didn't see much of Nitro, but like he will go on to do better things later on. But like the one thing that really stood out to me in the beginning of this match was when Hardcore Holly was doing the chops to I think was it?
I think it was Mercury.
I think it was Mercury.
Those were vicious.
Those are absolutely brutal.
Hardcore Holly is known for working stiff, so yes.
Yeah, like this guy did not mess around with the two young kids, and they put on a really really good match. Like it's not like a 5-star like burn the house down kind of a match, but it's a solid match to start a pay-per-view. I'll give it that.
I will say that this is around the time I liked Eminem, but that was because at the time I realized that they were kind of being used as WWE's, or at least SmackDown's, workhorse. But I think they did some stuff on Raw as well. Like, they were everywhere. And they were being used a lot, and they, like you said, I agree with you, they kind of nailed that heel gimmick. I think Melina really helped that out, though I didn't really like her outfit for this pay-per-view. I kept
Yeah.
looking
No.
at. I was like, what is she wearing? And I enjoyed some of Melina's stuff, and they use her well in this match as like a distraction and everything. But I don't know, Chris. What did you think overall?
I thought it was like what Ulysses was saying. It was a great match to start a pay-per-view, but really just kind of middle of the road overall. The first thing is like, oh yeah, like I said, a bunch of the guys I saw were like, oh yeah, I forgot about him. That was my case with Charlie Haas. I forgot about him. And other thing that I noticed was back in the mid-aughts, it was a time of just generic looking tights, just basic, nothing to them, just bland, and that always just put me off of most of these matches.
Is that really like a concern of yours? Is how the tights look? Is that something that draws you to a match?
No, just I noticed back then it was just they were not that good at all. But
Ulysses, does this sound like something we should actually be discussing? Is there an issue with the tights here?
Well, I will give Chris credit to one thing, and it's like every one of these matches, all these guys look like genuine wrestlers. And then on the main event, you go John Cena, and he's a little good shock to the system. So I guess I can see where he's coming from, but
Okay.
That's
all right. More variety. All right, sure.
And like I said, I never liked Eminem because back at that time I just ate whatever WWE gave me, and I didn't like the heels and I liked the faces. So
You two are some eating fools. I'll tell you that.
it's
right
not
now.
that way anymore.
Anyway,
yeah.
let me
Look,
ask you.
I was 13. Chris was like
So I think I was
probably
3,
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what quality was during the time. We just like what we were seeing, the pretty colors.
Damn youngins. All right, let me ask you last question about this match. Looking at Joey Mercury in 2005 and comparing him to Joey Mercury in 2015, any thoughts?
I miss his hair.
I bet he does too.
You know what? I'll give me 2015 Joey Mercury 100% of the time, because if you ever see him in any promo now, every time Rollins makes a point, he does the greatest faces. Like he's in the background selling it like, yes. Oh, it's the greatest
He's the hype
thing.
man.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, there was eventually, I can't remember the exact year, but there was a ladder match
Ooh.
where Nitro and Mercury were in, and Mercury gets hit with a ladder pretty much in the eye, and he can't. I believe he doesn't even finish the match, if I remember correctly. But he lost 35% of his vision in his right eye, which is why he quit wrestling for a while, and he was a trainer. And then there's some really, if you've never heard the stories, he had a lot of financial problems. He had a lot of people in the business help him out. He came back and got a job in the business. So it's a cool story. It's neat. You should look it up if you're interested in Joey Mercury at all. And then he came back for Punk's Society stuff, which was really good. Had to change his whole wrestling style. Had to kind of stop doing a lot of the moves he did because with the lack of vision, he just couldn't guarantee his own safety doing a lot of them. So it's an interesting story.
Check that out.
Moving along, the next match was something I totally did not see coming. The Big Show versus Carlito with his new bodyguard, Matt Morgan. So first off, I'm a big fan of Matt Morgan. The blueprint from TNA was awesome.
It was amazing.
Good stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah, good stuff. Matt Morgan is definitely one of those guys that you can look at his career and you can see him improve vastly in a very short span of time. He's a really good wrestler. I kind of hate he's not on TV right now, but WWE for some reason decided, hey, we have this really good big guy who can actually move for a big guy. What should we do with him?
Let's give him to Carlito.
A stuttering gimmick. We're gonna give him a gimmick where he stutters. And what really sucks about that to me is there are people who are way worse talkers who a stuttering gimmick might actually work for them since they suck at talking. But yeah, we're going to give it to the guy who could actually be easily be taught to speak on the mic. Whatever. Ulysses, tell me about this match.
Okay. I went into this match giving absolutely zero of a damn about it because the promo video before it I get WWE, they try to sell you on shows, they try to sell you on the storylines, but a poison apple? Really? We're gonna go Disney on in wrestling. We're
I
gonna go Disney.
I thought it was neat because it showed that Carlito was trying to be clever. And I'm gonna say this right now: I was way more interested in this promo video than I was the actual match.
Well, that's because
Yeah,
most
I'll
of the
give you
match
that.
wasn't a match at all. It was just Carlito running around.
That's true. Yeah.
That and I don't care to see the Big Show eating. Granted, like he was eating an apple, so he at least he did a healthier choice. But man, don't ever show that man eating
You
because
guys are
he
on
looked
He
weird.
demolished that apple.
absolutely.
It was like 2 bites and that apple was done.
You guys are on some weird quirks today. I just want to tell you.
Well, let's be honest. The Big Show had better days. He looked awful. Like he
and
looks
his
a lot
facial
better
hair was
now.
terrible.
I think
Give
this
him a
is
full
right
goatee or
before.
nothing. No Fu Manchu. That was terrible.
I could be wrong about this. I'd have to look up the exact date, but I believe this is right before he goes back down to OVW because it was around 2005 or 6 where they sent him back to OVW to trim down and everything.
But yeah, like, it was the match that you expected. This is another match where Steven already brought it up. I hate that Matt Morgan never worked out in the WWE because I felt like he could have been something good. Like he ended up having a really good career in TNA. It kind of washed out at the end, but I don't know. The match itself, it was a basic heel face match that, like I said, like I really didn't pay attention to it because I didn't really care about the match going into it. Like the whole bad apple thing, I don't know. It just didn't. It worked perfectly for the character that is Carlito.
Chris?
I'm going to ask a question that you can ask for most of Big Show's career. Was he face or heel during this? Because I could not tell.
I don't know.
He was a face.
That's. I mean, I guess technically, there are a couple other matches I asked that tonight, so that's a good question.
But the match was just once it actually started, was just your run-of-the-mill Big Show match where he's just pushing him around, and then somebody exploits Show's weakness, and then Show comes back, and then we get to see the worst F5 of all time at the end of it.
Okay, I don't know if it's the worst, but it definitely wasn't one of the better ones. I will agree with you on that.
I mean, to make sure it wasn't just because it was the Big Show, I looked up Brock Lesnar F5ing the Big Show, and that actually looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But that was
No,
terrible.
he did when Brock F5 the Big Show. He did more of a. It looked like more of an AA than anything.
That was kind of an odd F5 when he did it at the Big Show. It didn't look like his typical F5, but let me ask you guys a question. So there's been a lot of talk lately about whether or not certain people in the business should retire, and a lot of this gets flung at Kane and Big Show because they're still kind of in prominent spots on Raw and SmackDown and even pay-per-views, and yet here it is, we're comparing Big Show in 2005 to 2015, but Big Show's had already had a decent career even before this. So let's take a quick second and discuss here. Is it time for Big Show to kind of hang it up?
This is what I think they should do. Big Show and Kane should both retire from like active wrestling, like wrestling every night or coming out on TV every night. What they should keep them for is like the big events, like coming out in the Rumble or maybe a WrestleMania match every now and then. But or one or two more is what I meant by WrestleMania match. But yeah, just save them for like the Rumble and events like that, and just keep them off night after night because it's time for them to hang up the boots.
Ulysses?
That's what I actually thought this year's WrestleMania was. I thought giving the Big Show the trophy was like the perfect calling card for his perfect curtain call. I'm sorry. It sounded like that would have been the absolute perfect way to just end the Big Show's career, kind of quote unquote living up to the Andre the Giant thing. But I don't know, like Big Show, watching him wrestle now, it's nothing. His matches are really boring. Like, I don't see what he could do. Like, I don't know who he could feud with that will benefit anyone, but I love the Big Show, but I think it's time for him to hang it up.
Yeah. I hate to be divided on this, but I actually believe that with the Big Show, and then yet with Kane still, sometimes I see him pull out some interesting stuff. So, I don't know. I do kind of agree with you with when it comes to the Big Show. I wonder if maybe not this year, but maybe very soon. I think we should kind of be wrapping that up. But anyway, let's move on to the cruiserweight belt, which was just kind of nice to see the cruiserweight belt again for me. And that
Yeah.
was Chavo Guerrero versus the champion, Paul London. Now, London and Kendrick used to actually be one of my favorite tag teams. I felt they did some really cool stuff. You know, Paul London is not a good talker, but that's why they let Kendrick do a lot of the talking. And he did some very cool stuff in this match. So, any highlights from this match you really liked, Ulysses?
When Paul London almost killed himself by doing the dive on the outside,
Right.
and Chavo did not catch him.
Notes too.
Yeah, it looked like Chavo was supposed to catch him more and just didn't happen.
Yeah, because it terrified me because he fell and Chavo did not catch him, not even in the slightest bit.
It just
And
kind
he
of
landed.
off his arm.
Yeah, he kind of just landed back first onto the thing, and then he stands up and his right arm starts twitching, and I'm thinking, oh dear God, he paralyzed himself.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause he
looked like
saw-
he got a stinger.
Yeah, because he sold that perfectly. But yeah, like that, I was almost certain like he almost killed himself on that one. But the match itself, it was good to see just classic working the body, classic small storytelling. Like they sold the rib injury completely.
Right.
And my only downfall for this is I don't know how you two feel, but I never particularly cared for Chavo. And even when he was tag teaming with Eddie Guerrero, I only saw that tag team because I loved Eddie. I never cared much for Chavo. So, like, from his aspect, I understand he's a really good wrestler. He's really good in the ring. I just never cared much. But I do like Paul because, like how Steven said, I loved him with Kendrick. Like, those two are fantastic. And I don't know. Like, this match was entertaining. It was fun to see cruiserweight action again. And I recommend this one. Go watch it.
I will say this: Chavo's consummate professional. So I just wonder if he was having an off night or if there was a miscue or something. I'm not sure what happened with that. I did enjoy watching Chavo, mostly in WCW or when he was tagging with Eddie. Those were the times I really liked Chavo. He's good in Lucha Underground right now because they haven't been doing as much with him, but he's a good heel. To me, Chavo is always heel, even when he's face. He's still heel. Chris, any thoughts?
Much in the same what you two have been saying. I liked Paul London better when he was with the tag team, with with his partner. But the bump was nasty, and I like seeing Chavo again because I never really liked Chavo, but I never hated him. He was just kind of in the middle. Like I appreciated watching him, and I love the action in this match. Just how, and like everybody was been saying, I like the seeing the cruiserweights again. I always been a big fan of the high flyers.
Yeah, it was nice seeing that 450 at the end. That was a good way to finish it off. All right, so
Hold on, before we move on,
all right,
I just want to say this. I think Kendrick is down there with NXT helping him out or whatever.
yeah.
It'd be awesome if NXT found a way to get him and Paul London for like a reunion tag team match in NXT. That'd be awesome to see.
Okay, that might be cool. So a line that I figured we'd be saying a lot during this pay-per-view is the best way I can introduce the next match, which is Booker, I want to have sex with your wife.
Not just any kind of perverted sex.
So, I don't know who wrote this storyline. I'm going to guess it was Michael P.S. Hayes. Because it sounds like a Hayes storyline. But,
that seems like a Freebird storyline.
yeah.
Just look at a Freebird. You don't tell me he doesn't look like he would write the storyline?
That's P.S. Hayes, man. He's the Freebird. At some point, Booker T and Kurt Angle had a disagreement. We'll just go with that. And this is another one where the video package really sold me on this match. We've always said that WWE does great video packages. I think the reason the video package sold me on this match, though, is because of how uncomfortable I felt after watching it. There is a legit scene in this video package where Kurt Angle gets Charmel by herself and closes the door with this look at the camera, like just the completely rapiest look I've ever seen Kurt Angle give in his entire life. And it's kind of odd. He actually says it is part of the interview where he's supposed to be apologizing. he pretty much screams at the camera, "She fondled my privates."
She molested me.
And there's two things about this. One, I thought Booker T and Kurt both had some moments where I was like, man, that's some really good work. Like, I almost wondered if something like really happened backstage where these two, sometimes when two guys have a problem with each other, they'll put them in a match to let them kind of work their shit out, right? I almost, probably not, because I've heard that these two are really good friends outside the ring. But there were some really good tense moments in the video package, in the build-up to the match. We had some immediate action. It was, I don't know, it was stalking, law-breaking, sex-offending Kurt Angle just really, I'm a big Kurt Angle fan, and this just really kind of turned me off.
He fit the role too well.
A little too well, yeah. All right, Chris, what did you think?
Like, most of my notes can just be summed up with Kurt, stop it, Kurt, stop it. And just that's, for the most part, that's what I got from the promos and the segments backstage. But to the match, I loved seeing these two wrestle again, because they were two of my favorites back when I was watching then. And Booker had his crazy eyes going to the ring, which are always great. I love Booker's crazy eyes. And then the match had great action, and it looked like both of them were legit. Like, this looked like this was, like you were saying, like, this is actually a problem in the back, and they just brought it to life, but obviously it wasn't. But they had great acting in it, and the crowd was behind it, and Kurt decided instead of juicing from one location, he decided to juice from 3 different locations. Like, he was, like, bleeding from his nose, his head, and his mouth for some reason.
Yeah, there was some blood in this match.
Mm-hmm.
Ulysses, what'd you think?
I'll say this storyline was 100 times more believable when you remember that in character, this is not the first time Kurt Angle tried to kiss another man's wife, because he did do that with Stephanie.
Oh, yeah, good point.
So this became 100 times more believable. And again, like, this is actually the match, the reason why we picked this pay-per-view, because I saw this on some list of, like, worst storylines for great wrestlers, and this was the one for Kurt Angle. Is like rapey Kurt Angle, and I'm like, there is no way WWE ever did this, and I gave WWE way too much credit.
Yeah, you did.
Like, this is the Kurt Angle who got mad at ECW for crucifying Raven.
Yeah.
It's
Sandman, by the way. And
sorry.
Yeah, Raven, I think, did the crucifying.
My bad.
Yeah.
And wait, I thought he crucified Tommy Dreamer.
No, he crucified
one of the ECW greats.
Right, someone Raven crucified someone. Go ahead.
On the comments, tell these guys how I'm right and these guys are wrong. Anyway, yeah, like, these two put on a really good match. Like, it was good to see, like, Booker come out, like, filled with piss and vinegar, like, whooping his ass. And remember when the commentary wasn't crap and Michael Cole and Taz sold the story and the match really well?
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. I love their commentary duo where it seemed like they disagreed on some things, but not every. Like, there wasn't a distinct heel and there wasn't a distinct face. They just kind of, like, they were friends and they were good. And why don't we have this anymore?
Yeah, this is something I was going to comment on. That, one, this is the time period when people are like, Michael Cole's not a good commentator. I'm like, he used to be. I swear, I think WWE got in his ear, literally, because they have earpieces, and he just sucks now. I don't know. The point is, this match and the last match, these commentators sold the hell out of both of those matches.
They put on an absolute They put on an absolute show. They showed exactly what commentary is supposed to be for a wrestling match, because they sold this match really well, because they came out saying, yeah, like, Booker, kick his ass. Like, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. This guy wanted to do evil things to your wife. And then when the tables turned, they quickly mentioned, like, this was Kurt Angle's only chance for survival. He had to withstand Booker's early onslaught because he knew he was going to get one. And then once Kurt survives that, he could be on the offensive. And they just did a fantastic job of explaining what this match meant to both men. and that did this match wonders. Like they put on a really good show. The finish was kind of questionable, but they did put on a really good show, like in-ring show, and the commentators just helped it put it over like one notch above, just because they did a really good job explaining what we were actually watching.
Right. And another thing about the commentators, they actually knew the names of the moves, opposed to now, where
Taz always tries to make himself sound smarter than he actually
true.
knew.
Like they actually knew what a plancha and an enziguri were.
Yeah, he a lot of times in TNA now, because it's him and Josh Matthews, he will correct him on moves, and it's pretty funny. Speaking of which, later on we won't discuss it much, but you get to see a couple of backstage segments with a really young Josh Matthews.
Oh yeah.
So
you look like Chris.
Right. There are two things about this match. As we already pointed out, Booker T comes out strong with some early offense. He looks good. Both men actually looked really strong this match. I thought it, even though Kurt Angle loses, I thought it did a good job of not making him look weak, and both men came out looking strong. Then we have, I guess my biggest pop of the match, of course, was when Booker T did the scissor kick when Kurt was hanging out the ropes.
That was great.
It was just very cool looking. The camera guy caught it perfectly. It was a good moment. My biggest problem was that a lot of the storytelling was coming from the commentators, and there was very little in-ring storytelling from the actual competitors other than just it was a good match. But all the storytelling came at the end in that last couple of minutes before, I believe he, reversed it into a small package or whatever and caught Kurt for the pin. But, then you had the nut shot and the, Charmel,
multiple slaps.
The handcuffs and all. It worked. I enjoyed it. I do think they could have done a little bit more with it, but overall, when you initially told me about this, I just really thought, I'm like, those are two good workers, but this is going to be a bad match. But it wasn't.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think their program ended there, if I'm not mistaken, which that's actually sad, because those two could have done some really good matches on some pay-per-view.
Well, a nut shot will end a program pretty quick.
Yep. Sadly.
That's slightly sarcasm, but anyway, I have a question for you two. If WWE were to say revive this storyline, but not with Booker T and Kurt Angle, which two wrestlers would you like to see in this storyline? Ulysses.
Okay, I'm gonna do since one's a married couple and everything. I'm gonna go with Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella just because they're actually married.
Mm-hmm.
And in the role of Kurt Angle, I'm gonna go with Big E Langston because I want to see more things with Big E Langston.
Nice. No, you know what? I'm not saying this in any disrespectful way, but I bet that man could do rapey pretty well.
Right. If that led to a program with Daniel Bryan and Big E, I got no problem with that.
Chris, who would you see in this epic storyline?
I had the same couple in mind between Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella, but I was thinking more of Dean Ambrose for the Kurt Angle spot.
Okay. I could see some Dean. That could work. He definitely would pull off kind of a Cape Fear kind of scary, so that would work. I had a different couple in mind. I was always a fan of Maurice, so I would use the Miz and Maurice.
Sandow.
Who are definitely, a married couple in real life. And you could use Sandow. That would, kind of carry on from what they're doing right now. But I actually thought of someone, I was like, who would scare me if I were handcuffed? They had the rapey eyes. I really thought about Cesaro. So for me, it would be the Miz and Maurice, and then Cesaro would be in the role of Kurt Angle.
Oh, nice.
I think that could work. WWE, if you're listening and you need somebody to write that, you let me know, all right?
Or Big Show and Kurt Angle spot.
But don't do that storyline again. I'm asking you politely.
Yeah.
On to the match that probably confused me the most the entire night.
And yet you asked for a match including one of these guys.
I did, because I'm going to tell you why. Not long ago on Facebook, someone sent me a message and they're like, hey, do you remember Heidenreich? What were the lyrics to his theme song? and I'm assuming this person was joking, but I went and actually found all the lyrics printed out to Heidenreich's theme song, and I posted them on Facebook because that's how I spend my time. So
Aren't the lyrics just Heidenreich?
yes, those are.
No, Heidenreich. Get it right.
Oh god. Okay, so first of all, a little piece of trivia. I was never a fan of Heidenreich. Never. The poems, I guess he was facing this match. I never liked him. But his real name is John Heidenreich. I never knew that. So, the more you know. Ulysses, please tell me about this match.
Okay, allow me to read the first note I wrote down about this match. What the actual fuck? Because what the hell was that thing about trying to find a friend?
Okay.
What kind of a gimmick is this?
Okay.
You wasted like 5 minutes.
Yes, they did. So, for those who don't know, at this point in time, Heidenreich, I believe, was supposed to be face. I don't buy it, but whatever. And he was doing this gimmick where he would come out at different shows and he would find a friend. Most of these quote-unquote friends were plants in the audience. This one obviously was. And they're usually young kids, which just really... Should they have done this right after the Kurt Angle Booker T match, where we already had one rapey figure, and then you
With
have
a
this
guy who who had an angle where he did something similar to that with Michael Cole.
I couldn't remember if that had already happened or if
Yeah, that was before.
Okay. So then we have him pulling out little kids. This little girl looked like she was what? Probably like 11, 10?
Yeah.
Something like that. And sitting her down in a chair, reading her a poem. Okay, maybe it was to the whole audience. I don't know. But God, oh my God, why did this happen? Why was this even a thing?
What the actual fuck?
Yeah. Chris, any thoughts on the opener to this match?
The little girl didn't know where she was from. She said Mindenberg, Annapolis.
That's a good point. Orlando Jordan is, at this point, the United States champion. I thought this was really cool because, thanks to JBL, Orlando Jordan had become United States champion, I believe, off of John Cena, if I remember correctly. And Orlando Jordan is a guy from WCW who is very talented. He did some other stuff. He did TNA. He did a match not long before he died. He did a match with the Ultimate Warrior. He's a really talented guy. I don't think this match was the best way to show that, but mostly because it's Heidenreich, and I don't think Heidenreich's like a really good wrestler either. But I don't know. Ulysses, what do you think about the match itself?
It was a really slow pace match. I could probably say, other than the Carlito Big Show match, it was the worst one on the card. But the most interesting thing was every time Heidenreich punched, he'll go pow pow, pow pow, pow pow.
I forgot about that.
It was the funniest thing. Like, in my mind, this match was a 5-star match just because I heard a grown ass man going pow pow, pow pow. Fantastic, 5-star quality match. But my question to you is, how often do you practice your Heidenreich walk?
Not enough. And
Okay.
It looks so creepy with him and the little girl, and he keeps falling against the rope. Like, I have my notes here say pretty much what I just said. Then it says, shouldn't Kurt Angle be Heidenreich's friend? ? And then it says, creepy girl doing creepy ass walk. So, yes, friends, those are my notes for wrestling. Go ahead.
My only notes for this match was went off a DDT. Really?
Exactly, that was my next point. Like, a DDT? Like, he's Jake the Snake already?
All right, like I said, this is not a good match to prove that Orlando Jordan is a good wrestler. He has some really good matches, though. You should look him up. So, I agree that was the worst match of the night. Any other comments on that before we move on?
Pow pow.
That's the best way to end.
So is Ryback the new Heidenreich?
Kind of. He does yell things. And
Heidenreich, feed me more.
As long as he doesn't ask for a friend.
That's so creepy.
Stupid.
All right, so Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio. One of the reasons why most people seem to remember this pay-per-view. Another great video package that not only caught me up on why I should care about who wins this match, but I've always loved Eddie's work, and I hate that I didn't watch a lot of this stuff live. A lot of Eddie's matches I had to go back and watch on the network, or friends let me, borrow tapes and stuff. So it was good to see this again. This was one I hadn't seen. I think the only problem I have with this match is that I think that Eddie is just a way better actor slash seller in this role than Rey. And that's no offense to Rey. I like Rey Mysterio. The match quality was good, but Eddie feels like he's really carrying a lot of this story. What did you think, Ulysses?
Okay, see, I love Eddie Guerrero. Like, one of my favorites of all time. What he did in ring, what he did for the promos, amazing. Like, I could go on an hour-long tangent about that, so I'll spare you guys that. But the best thing about this match is Eddie has probably hands down the best ice-cold stare of a heel. Like, when he's just blank space, angry heel, just the absolute best stare. And the best thing about this match is that he was probably the most hated person in this pay-per-view. Like, he sold that heel role perfectly. And especially when you consider a year ago, he was the hottest babyface in the company when he was a champion.
Right.
Like, he was the greatest thing. For him, in a year span, to go from the most loved person to the absolute most despised human being was just an amazing transformation. The beginning promo package was amazing when he turned heel on Rey. When he beat him up and he took the mask and he started putting the mask on like local jobbers and calling them Rey and everything.
Yeah, that was good.
Like, I agree with you 100%. Eddie Guerrero sold this storyline more. And no disrespect to Rey. Like, Rey, it looked more like Rey was supposed to sell it more in-ring, which for the most part, I guess he did.
He did. Yeah.
But he could not hold a candle to the amount of charisma on the mic Eddie Guerrero had. Like, I love you, Rey, but there's no way you could even come even remotely close to Eddie.
I think Rey would agree with us on that. He used to tout how great Eddie could sell a match, like in the promo. So
yeah, because this was one of the matches that I do remember being highly invested into it, because as I said before, I did eat what WWE gave me, and I hated Rey because I just remembered how much I loved him a year before when he beat Brock, when he beat Kurt, and for him to turn heel, and again he looked like the most like, if you touch me I will murder you kind of heel, because I'm telling you, that stare that he does is the most frightening stare. I can't think of another heel that had that ice cold stare better than Eddie Guerrero.
No, I agree with that. Chris, what were your thoughts initially on this match?
Well, I was excited to see it because any match with Eddie and Mysterio, any match with Eddie, it's gonna be good. I like the action in it, but another thing that, like you said, the ice cold stare, but another thing that Eddie's really good at is the smug smirk, like, I just got the best of you, that type of deal. And I always love that about Eddie. Just his whole persona when he's a heel is just great. And like you guys were saying, he carried the match more so than Rey did. And the only knock I had on this match was that a lot of the matches seem to have the whole, oh, his ribs are hurt, oh, his ankle is hurt, and then they just take advantage of that. And I mean, granted, a lot of matches still do that, but I just never been a fan of that. And that was my only knock on this match. But other than that, it was really good.
That kind of action has to really be sold well. It has to work well in the story. The earlier match that we mentioned with, I believe it was Paul London and Chavo, that's a really good way to sell that and to make it affect the match and not feel cheesy. And I didn't think this one did it bad. I've definitely seen matches
do it better,
and I've definitely seen matches do it a lot worse. So, in the overall match, I thought the quality of the match, we have two good competitors who were just out there. They know what they're doing. They've worked together before. You can tell that these two guys, it flowed very well. And this match and the next match that we're about to discuss, both were given a lot of time. and they both had the advantage. I think the commentary was better on the last match, but the commentary definitely didn't hurt this match. And there was a story being told once again. This is something I kind of miss about this, era. Is like each of these main three big stories, and even a couple of the smaller ones. I kind of wanted to go back, and I was like, well, now I'd like to see some of the episodes of SmackDown building up to this stuff because it was good. I liked it. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, I agree with you. The commentators did a job of selling it. Like, again, this was I agree with you. I don't know how people say that how Michael Cole has always been bad. Like, I remember him being really good, and because the one thing I did like about it is that during the match he used to say, especially and also in the Kurt Angle match, he was always like on this match especially, he was always rooting for Eddie, saying, "Come on, beat him, like do something," because that's exactly what I was yelling at the TV. So I kind of appreciated that.
The only negative things I would say about this is, of course, this is kind of a layover match. The ending is meant to, this feud was going to continue, right? So if you're watching all of the stuff at the time, that's not bad. That's not a negative thing. Watching it as one individual pay-per-view, you may not appreciate that as much. My only real complaint was that I thought putting Chavo in there in the mix, even though I know it worked with the story, when he came out, I kind of almost didn't want him to come out. I just, sometimes there are just points in matches where you just like, no, interference will not help this match at all. Sometimes interference does great for matches. Sometimes it just kind of makes it feel like you're getting rid of the match a little bit.
Yeah.
Chris, any final thoughts on this?
None that I can think of.
All right.
Eddie's GTA shirt was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm so glad you mentioned that. So I am a huge Grand Theft Auto fan. I have been playing since 2, and I really love the series. But I remember the first time I saw him, and I was like, wait a minute, that logo looks really familiar, because it was the Vice City logo, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And I looked at it and I was like, why does it look like he's wearing a Grand Theft Auto? Holy shit! I remember always loving that shirt, and when I saw it in the pay-per-view, it reminded me of that. So I'm glad you brought that up. All right, on to the main event. So I have seen several matches between JBL and John Cena. I've seen last man standing matches. I believe they even did a bull rope match, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
And I know some people are going to complain about JBL, but I actually really liked when JBL had his long run as champion. I didn't watch all of it, but it was something I would try to catch episodes of SmackDown, and it was enjoyable to me. This match is JBL versus the champion John Cena. And JBL was walking around with the old school belt, whereas Cena had the new spinner belt, which most people hate. Do we all hate the spinner belt?
Yes.
Not entirely.
Okay, you'll get to learn to hate it. Don't worry. However, the thing I want to talk
Not as
about
bad
the
as
most, not as bad as the what?
The Divas belt.
Oh, well.
That is pretty bad.
So one thing I want to talk about first is, again, a decent video package. I don't think it compared to the previous two that I mentioned that I really liked, but it once again, got me caught up and made me realize why I cared about who actually won this. Two things. One, Cena's entrance. Better than the Terminator entrance from WrestleMania.
False.
No, it's not.
True.
It's true. I actually, when he came out, I didn't know he was going to have a special entrance. And when he came out, I was like, what am I watching? But it was better than the Terminator entrance.
False.
When he came out, I was like,
to disagree.
When he came out, I was like, oh, is it going to be a regular? Oh, it's coming out on a truck.
Yeah.
Figures. It's Cena.
With his own DJ. I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat. And I love how he kicked the, he ran on top of the limo and then kind of kicked the horns off or whatever. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty cool. Also, okay, it's so weird to hear an audience genuinely cheer for John Cena.
I know.
And I'm a Cena fan. I like John Cena.
You were a member of the C Nation.
Let's not go that far. But that's the thing. I'm just not used to this now. Like, I thought maybe they're being sarcastic. That's right. They're luring him into this false sense of no, they're really legit cheering. Because at one point in the match, JBL starts getting the upper hand, and the whole crowd starts booing loudly.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, Chris, what are your thoughts on John Cena versus JBL?
I always loved this rivalry. Like you were saying, a lot of people don't like JBL during his title run, but I always, no, I didn't like him back then, but looking back on it, realized I would have because he fits that whole rich person, better than you persona, and his mic skills. I've is are his mic skills bad? Like I've heard some people say his mic skills aren't good, and I've heard some say he is. And honestly, I'm kind of just on the fence about it.
I enjoy his work on the mic for what he tries to do. For his kind of gimmick, they work fine. He's
Yeah,
not.
okay.
He's def. You're never gonna see him up there in like some list of the best mic
Yeah.
workers, but
You might see him in underrated.
yeah, you will never also see him compared to Sid Vicious's mic skills. So
Yeah, I mean, can I
Yeah.
start over? The match itself, it was just what you'd expect out of those two, a brawl. But the only downside to it is there's like blood. I'm okay with it, but there was too much blood in this.
really, was there too much blood
No
for
such
you?
thing.
Well, when you get a juicer like JBL is, he's great at that. Like he's got that locked down. And then Cena, who can be great, and he showed he is. He had a lot of blood to lose this match, and I just felt like there was too much this match. But
Not to steal a phrase here, but Cena really did have kind of a crimson mask going on for a good portion of this match,
he did.
and it was all on his chest and everything, and then like
Got on JBL.
right. There
and-
was at one point where JBL doesn't move to him, and then he comes out, and the camera kind of pans around, and you see that JBL's right side of his chest is red now because of that. Ulysses, did you think this was too much blood?
You know what? Like, this is one of those best examples of like how much blood could probably add or help with a story.
Yeah.
Because these two, I love, because when I got terrified when JBL hit Cena with the chair,
Mm-hmm.
because that chair shot looked exactly like the chair shot he gave to Eddie Guerrero. And if
Right.
you go back and watch that, Eddie Guerrero bled that night probably more than these two men bled this night combined.
Oh yeah.
Because that man looked like he was Daredevil at the end of that match.
I was going to bring that up. We not too long ago talked about a match between JBL and Eddie Guerrero, and we talked about. I think that was much more blood in that match, even though there was a large amount in this one. Though I honestly think that might have been a blood packet, because I've read in interviews that Cena isn't really a fan of blade jobs, and he grabs his head right before. And the way the camera angles are, it could have been. He easily could have been slipped something or had something on him. So it could have been a blood packet. He could have bladed. I'm not sure which, but
Yeah, I remember
It,
thinking that it looked like a blood packet more than
Yeah.
a blade.
it looked, in my opinion, it looked good, but I think there was too much blood from the initial hit. It almost looked a little bit cheesy, if that makes sense. But it worked for the rest of the match.
Yeah.
So, as Chris pointed out, this is a really brutal match. The Eddie Mysterio match had its own level of brutality, but this one kind of takes that to the next level because it's an I Quit match. So, therefore, there are no pinfalls, there are no countouts. It's just about getting the other guy to give up. And I like how they sell that. The video package sells that fact that JBL actually says saying I quit is like giving someone your soul. And the announcers sell it very well. And then I love that both men at one point each JBL like tries to go for a cover, and the ref just kind of reminds me, it's like, I don't know what you're doing. That's not going to help.
Yeah.
So they brawl in the ring, they brawl out of the ring, they go
In
up
the
by the
stands.
stage. Yeah, they were everywhere with this. They go over to Cena's truck, they destroy the door and some of the glass on JBL's limo. This is one of those matches that I just really enjoyed. I know part of it's just because you're seeing them do all these stunts. Like when JBL went through the TV and they had that table spot where that table spot looked rough, where JBL fell on the announce table.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
The announcers even comment like it looks like he hits the shoulder blade. Like when he lands, it looks like he seriously got hurt. And we know that JBL eventually had to retire from in-ring competition because of his back and neck and stuff like that. So we may be looking at one of the matches that led to an earlier retirement for him.
Yeah, when the way he fell on the announce table was really close to how like McMahon fell at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Like his back just landed in the worst possible spot. It just looked brutal.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, Chris, did you have any other thoughts on this match or anything about it?
Like, the only note I had on this match was the too much blood, because this match sucked me in, and I just could not think of any other notes to write down just because I was so enthralled in the match, because it was a great one.
I definitely agree with you. I didn't make a ton of notes on this match just because I was concentrating on the match a lot. There were so many good spots. The crowd seemed really into this match. I mean, the crowd was not dead by any means, really, in the previous other two main events that we've mentioned, but they just seemed really into this match. There were fans. I mentioned the booing earlier when JBL started, getting ahead, but they got some really good shots of the fans who were like hanging over the rails trying to see what was going on because, like I said, the two competitors were everywhere in the arena almost.
Yeah.
The ending I thought was really interesting with Super Cena, picking up the part of the truck. It was an exhaust pipe or something from the truck, and JBL giving up. And did we see a little bit of remnants of the heel Cena character here? Because Cena attacks JBL after the match is over. He's already won the match. JBL doesn't try to attack him or anything. He's just trying to stand up, and Cena puts him through that. I guess it was like glass or whatever background that they had back there. They had the Judgment Day thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did you guys think of that? Did you like the ending?
Well, you were saying about how it was kind of a throwback to his heel days. I mean, we see nowadays Cena does what he wants to get, as we see from him torturing Rusev.
Okay, true.
As a guy who always roots for the baby faces, I saw this more as a I'm gonna put you down so you don't ever attempt to stand back up. So that's how I saw it. That was cool.
And I mean, JBL from the video package had done some devious things, some heinous things to get back the title, to try to get back the title. So I could see that. I don't know. I thought it was good. I like personally when heel and face blurs a little bit, and sometimes you can still be the face and just be pushed so far that you do certain things. So I'm okay with that.
And also, that's a part of the. Well, actually, no. Come to think of it, I was thinking the I Quit matches. Once they say I quit, and they're about to do something, then they do it anyway. That's what happens in most of them. But I was thinking, Cena did that again against, I think it was Batista, maybe, and I think it was like Over the Limit or something like that, where he got him to say I quit while he was up on his shoulders, and then gave him the AA anyway. So maybe that's just a characteristic of Cena.
That sounds about right. JBL wins for best line of the night, where he takes the microphone and he just yells, "Now quit, you punk ass bitch."
That was great.
Because it was just out of nowhere, number one, and he says it with such conviction. Like, I was like, oh, John, maybe you should quit. Damn.
I miss JBL.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of close out the show on this, I just want to kind of ask, as far as I Quit matches and Last Man Standing and, those kind of matches where they kind of have to outdo themselves, because this is kind of the element of those types of matches. You have to kind of make it feel so brutal that you don't feel bad, and it doesn't make the other guy look weak when he gives up because he just went to war here. So where would you rate, in all those types of matches, where would you put this one on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd give this match a solid 7. The blood probably, the match itself was probably around a 6. The blood probably puts it up to 7.
Yeah.
Because other than the table spot, both table spots with the DJ and all that, I know the TV, even though that was the fakest looking TV
it was.
Since that computer screen we saw a couple retros back, There wasn't really much brutal spots. Like I know the chair shot was pretty bad, but because I'm pretty sure we could go back and find even more brutal spots everywhere. But for what it was, I'll give it a solid 7.
Chris?
I'd give it a kind of a borderline 7. Just barely got up to a 7.
Yeah,
for me.
I agree. I was kind of, I don't know. Initially, I would have given this match an 8 just because of my sheer enjoyment of it. But thinking back and looking on some of it, I'd probably agree with you, like between a 6 and a 7. However, I think it's better than some of the cheesier ones. Like there was the one with Wyatt not long ago, this Last Man Standing, where he actually pinned him under the speaker, and I didn't like that. And then wasn't there one with, it was either with Orton or Batista, that he actually just duct taped him? And
That was Batista.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I don't know that. So to me, this one can compare. I know we're comparing a lot of the matches that Cena has been in and stuff like this, but I actually thought maybe it deserved almost an 8. But anyway, it's not the point. Last question. Heidenreich returns on Raw Monday night, right? Who does he face?
Ryback.
See, that seems too obvious. That seems way too obvious.
I changed my mind. Yeah. He returns, forms a team with Ryback, and the team name is Heidenreich. There we go.
That is awful.
That is god awful.
Terrible.
Ulysses.
Perfect.
Who does Heidenreich feud with?
Okay, I know my typical answer for these is Biggie Langston because I want to see more Biggie, so I won't say Biggie Langston.
Thank you.
Heidenreich comes out and faces Bray Wyatt in the battle of who could creep out the kids in the stadium more.
You stole my fucking answer.
Yes!
How about Heidenreich versus local jobber?
Okay. So I have to change my answer since Ulysses stole mine. So mine, off the top of my head now, is he comes back and he fights Bo Dallas. And this is why.
That'd be great.
Heidenreich comes back and he's trying to be, like inspirational, and he's, doing all this for the kids, and he's talking up, be a star, not a bully, and he's doing all this stuff. And then Bo Dallas comes out and is like, "Hey, you're stealing my gimmick. I'm the motivational speaker here." So they have
by Bo Dallas.
They have like a motivational battle off or whatever. I don't know. We'll work on the name, right? Where they actually both get mics and they go into the crowd and they're trying to inspire people in the crowd. But then when Heidenreich actually starts getting people on his side, Bo Dallas gets pissed and just hits him with the mic. And so they end up in an I quit match, right? Where the person doesn't say I quit.
You got to say the other person's catchphrase.
Right, exactly. You either have to say I believe or
Heidenreich.
I don't know. We're gonna work this out. We're gonna make this happen. I think actually he quit wrestling in 2009. Damn it. We'll figure something out. So
see, I'm disappointed you didn't go Vince Russo and go Heidenreich poetry on a pole match.
No. Oh my God. Oh Jesus God. You're why I can't have good dreams anymore. Anyway. All right. I want to thank both of you for watching this pay-per-view. It wasn't bad. I thought overall it was a good pay-per-view.
That was a really good one.
Yeah. But I want to thank both of you for coming on. Chris.
You're welcome.
Ulysses.
You'll catch me listening to the John Cena album now.
Oh, yes.
Da, 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 da.
For those of you who don't follow Ulysses on Twitter, it'll be in the description. But he's been posting John Cena rap lyrics lately, and he even posted a music video, which I had heard of and seen some stills from, but I'd never watched the whole thing. It's what's the name of it, Ulysses?
You Can't See Me.
No, not the album. The video where they're
Bad Man.
A-Team. Yeah. So there's this video for Bad Bad Man where it's a spoof of the A-Team, and it's enjoy. Just go Google it. Just Google
it's train wreck, hilarious.
It's not good, but it's I made it through the whole video. I'm glad that we discussed this. Thank you all for listening. If you have any suggestions of pay-per-views that we should maybe look back on for the Wilds Warcry Retro, let us know. If you have any comments on anything, if you want to correct Ulysses on how he's wrong about his ECW history, or if you want to ask Chris when he's going to get his driver's license or anything like that.
I already have it.
You're ruining the mystique.
Or if he was ever a friend of Heidenreich.
I'm just remembering that picture that Chris keeps posting of himself as a kid, and he would make the perfect Heidenreich friend, and it would be so creepy. Oh, that's great. All right. All of our Twitter info will be in the description. You can follow us there if you have any comments or leave a comment here on the video. Thanks again. You all have a great week.